And we are live. Welcome everybody to the Burrow. Thanks for stopping by to talk with Emily and I about the Force Awakens.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah, fair warning. I did say this in the tweets, but this is we're not going to keep spoilers out of the show. Everything's gonna be on the table. So if you haven't seen the Force Awakens yet and you want to avoid some major story points, I did say this in the tweets, oh jeez, then yeah, this is your warning. Fair warning.
Yeah.
So you saw the movie last week?
Yeah.
And overall, I guess just to get this out of the way first, how did you feel when you came out of it? Did you like it?
I liked it, but it wasn't perfect. There was a few things that kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
I know you've seen it like 10 times. So.
Yeah, I got sick of it by the time I came back from the States, for sure. That said, I really do like it, but yeah, it's not without some kind of glaring issues, I think. Which I guess is probably going to be the things that we're focusing on, more than just saying, oh, we liked X, Y, and Z. But are there particular things that stood out to you as being done really, really well?
Yeah, I really like the new characters, like the new main trio. I really liked all of them, and I really am excited to get to know them in the upcoming movies.
Agreed.
And I really like the use of practical effects in it, as opposed to computer effects. Like a lot of the kind of alien creatures and the ships and the settings looked amazing. They looked like the original films, which I thought was great. I was really excited for that.
I agree with that. But what's interesting is that apparently this film had more digital shots, digital visual effects than The Phantom Menace. By I don't know, there were 2,100 digital effect shots in The Force Awakens. But yeah, the fact that I don't know, the combination was so much better, like you said, with the practical aliens. Like so many of those things you would expect to be CG are puppets, and miniature work and everything else like that. So I think just from a world building perspective and sort of making it more of an immersive experience, I guess, that really went a long way, I think, to making me believe in the world a bit more. But certainly more than the prequels, which, yeah.
So what were they saying constituted as a computer effects scene? It was just kind of touched by computer compositing, or it was totally done in effects?
I don't know exactly. There are some things, for example, there's that scene when there's that big pig creature when Finn is dying of thirst.
Yeah.
Right. So that, for example, is mostly practical, but then it was touched up. There are some things added in post.
Okay.
That counts. So there's plenty of things that are that sort of mix, or does little touch-ups, I think, count too. But yeah, I should find that article and I'll put it in the description later if anybody is interested in reading it. But
yeah, I can kind of jive with that. As long as it's not glaringly computer animated, it didn't jump out to me.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's everything. How should I say? I mean, of course, a lot of what was added in was, of course, for the spectacle and eye candy and everything else like that. But for the most part, I don't think anything got in the way of the story, which is the important part. And that's something, again, which the previous films, the last trilogy, I should say, did not do all that well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good stuff. But so after the effects, what about one of the things that I was really concerned about going into this was how much we'd be able to dive into the new characters while sharing screen time with the old three. And I think in some ways the movie did suffer from a little bit of a Spider-Man 3 effect. Where, for example, Leia to me felt superfluous.
Yeah.
I mean, she was there. I guess she had some kind of emotional role to fill with Han and also to make us care more about the Kylo Ren / Ben Solo dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, like, I walked away from that movie being like, okay, well, what was the point of her being there?
I kind of disagree with you,
Okay, yeah,
where
please.
I feel like Han was more disregardable in the movie's story than Leia. But maybe it's just because maybe looking at it from like a female view, where I feel more attached to Leia than I do Han or anyone
Okay,
else. So
that's fair. I guess I just felt like they didn't give her much room to breathe, I felt like, and like if I had never seen this movie or in any of the movies and I wasn't familiar with the story, like their relationship and the screen time and her reactions and everything seemed to rely too much on having that prior knowledge of their relationship. Like
yeah,
the way those characters were written, their interactions, like it didn't seem, I don't know, it didn't seem to me like, okay, these are two people who really, really love each other who were driven apart by like this horrible event. It just seemed kind of forced, I guess, and again, overly reliant on having some experience with the characters already.
yeah.
Which again is not necessarily a bad thing, I guess, because I mean other stories do that all the time, right? Like you don't jump into the third book in a series and be like, I don't know what's going on. This writer sucks. I don't know, but yeah.
I feel like that kind of ties into an attitude I had coming out of it too, where I had hoped it'd be a little more original, even though I knew it wasn't going to be. That it does continue, on from the other movies and really ties into that. And you can't really watch it as a standalone movie, and it's not meant to be watched that way.
I think that's true, yeah. And I don't know, like that's probably like one of the most common criticisms, right? Is that pretty much like point for point, plot wise at least, it's A New Hope over again.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if we look at Star Wars, though, it's just a fairy tale. So I don't think that's terribly unusual to reshape it, right? You use the same story, you reshape it, maybe you slap a new coat of paint on it, but at the end of the day, I mean that doesn't make it a bad film, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's a bad film.
You better
but,
not.
Yeah, like Nippon Culture Quest is saying in the chat that we should look at it long term, like there's going to be an ongoing story.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, for sure. I think probably ultimately that will decide like how good of a movie this is, at least in the greater Star Wars universe, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, there are definitely some things that need to pay off more. But I guess kind of related to what I was saying about Leia and the Spider-Man 3 syndrome is like there was such a backlash, I feel like, from the prequels where they wanted to avoid any sort of like politics in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't. It was really confusing just watching the movie, not reading any of like the expanded universe stuff, to understand what the relationship was between the Republic and the Resistance and the First Order and all that sort of stuff. And so I felt like not knowing that, like when the seat of the Senate gets blown up, right? It didn't have the kind of weight that I felt it should have.
Yeah.
Like because there was no reason for us to really care that the Senate was being blown away or that the fleet that you could barely see outside the planet was going away, and that meant like the Resistance was in a lot of trouble. Like you had to understand that dynamic, you have to read like the supplementary material, which doesn't seem like a very good practice.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
Yeah. So I don't know, which I guess I understand, like they felt probably like they had to put so much stuff into this short space that they had, because let's be honest, like the movie is like fan service distilled, which is not a bad thing, but I feel like rushing to hit all those things that they knew like the fanboys wanted to see ended up leaving like those crucial things in the background. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like we're kind of jumping ahead and like summarizing everything. So maybe to kind of dial it back a bit, what did Star Wars as a franchise mean to you, and was it like part of your childhood, or like how stoked were you for the new movie?
Yeah, I struggle to put it into words, I guess. I was incredibly excited. Like, it's one of the people who, when I first watched like that first trailer they brought out and the Millennium Falcon was flying around, I was just like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the next one came out and Han appeared on screen, I definitely had like there was some watery escape from my eyeballs. But yeah, it was a really big part of my childhood. So, which yeah, I don't know. Is that similar for you or?
It wasn't a huge part. Like I saw the movies when I was probably 11 or 12 or like a tween, somewhere in there. So I kind of missed it. Like I remember when I was a really little kid, I saw an Ewok movie. Do you
Oh
remember
no, really?
that? That was actually my first Star Wars. So I actually didn't watch the original trilogy until the prequels were coming out, and I was at my cousin's house and we were going to go watch the prequels, and they were like, oh my god, you haven't seen the originals? And then we had to marathon all of them in one day. So yeah, I liked them, but it was never, my big fandom thing. It wasn't, I wasn't crying from the teaser trailer.
Well, that's probably a good thing, to be honest. It's a little bit extreme of a reaction. So then, going into it, then were you? Yeah, I mean, you didn't have like that super like fangirl type thing happening, but were you excited? Were you excited to see it?
I was really excited just from the teaser trailer. I don't know about you, but usually for movies I know I'm gonna go watch, I generally don't really keep up with the trailers, because trailers these days, they're just cut in a way that spoils a lot of stuff.
Yeah, true.
So if I know for sure I'm gonna go watch it, I'm not gonna watch all the trailers.
Sure.
I just watched the teaser and I saw that the effects look great and the cinematography was just amazing in that one trailer. So yeah, I was super excited.
They did, I think overall, Abrams and Disney did a really good job of not putting too much information out there. Like, and the marketing for it was really smart too, because Rey, I mean, you were shown Rey a little bit, but most of the way the trailers were cut together made it seem like Finn was the more important character.
Mm-hmm.
Which of course is a very important character, but Rey ends up being the one.
Yeah.
So.
So who is your favorite in the movie of the new characters? Or old, whichever.
Of the new characters?
Any of them.
Well, I of course love Chewbacca. He's not new, but I love him always. But I really like Rey. I really like Rey. And BB-8 is just an adorable little shit kicker. So yeah. How about you? Who'd you like best?
Rey.
Yeah, she's just.
Love her.
Yeah, I think. I don't know how far ahead we want to jump here with this, but what is it about her that you found? I don't know why'd you walk away with her as your favorite?
Oh God. Okay, Thomas is asking in the chat, she's too much of Mary Sue. I will address that. Yeah, that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to do the show.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rey, I loved her because she is a girl. She's a girl. She's one of the main characters.
Sure.
Which is kind of lacking in previous Star Wars movies.
Yes.
Like Padme is a main character, but she's not that fun, to be honest. And yeah, Rey was just fun, and she has like that mysterious background, and there's more to uncover about her in the coming movies. And
Yeah.
she's just cool. Like, she can fight and she can use the Force. And
Right. Yeah, that's the thing I really liked about her, is that I never had any doubt, right? There was no doubt in my mind that she could do what she needed to do, right? Like I never feared that she was going to get knocked out of commission and then like the male character was going to have to save her, right? I like, you knew at the end when she was facing down Kylo Ren, like, okay, she can handle herself, right? There was, yeah, they wrote her in such a way that she was believably kick ass. Which again, yeah, like how often does that happen where you have a character who's written like that until the last 10 minutes of the movie, and then the dude comes out of nowhere and is like, oh, I'm the badass and saves the day, right? Like that's boring.
Yeah, like Nippon Culture Quest is saying, she was concerned when she was taken, and they were going to save her, the dudes, and then she saves herself, which
right,
was awesome. I love that part in the movie.
Yeah. Which I mean, I think there was that other moment where they kind of pulled the same trick, right? Where during that fight with Kylo Ren, she gets sort of knocked out for a second, and Finn picks up the lightsaber, and you're like,
yeah, I was nervous, like, no.
yeah, but then it was good. It's good. Yeah.
What did you think of the acting of all the new characters?
I generally speaking, I was really impressed. Yeah, I really thought everybody did a great job. I'm a big fan of Oscar Isaac's work. I'd never seen John Boyega in anything previous to this. No, now I need to check out Attack the Block.
I don't know what that is.
It's like I think it's like set in like a rougher area of London, and like aliens invade, and yeah, he leads the fight or something.
Aliens invade.
Yeah, aliens.
Okay.
And I thought Daisy Ridley was wonderful. She had, I don't know, I really liked, I mean, I don't know how much of it was on the page, but I liked like her mix of like prickliness, but also like, I don't know, she could be a badass and also be portrayed as really vulnerable in some ways, which I think is something that, particularly I think with female characters, they're either written one way or the other, right? Like the stone cold killer with a heart of gold, or like just completely overly emotional. I don't think there's much in between sometimes.
Yeah. Sean Burrow saying in the chat, you were getting worried because somebody was going to save her. Yeah, because I didn't want Rey to be turned into the damsel in distress. I didn't want her to become slave Leia. We want her to be an independent character and a strong character.
Right. And I mean, Thomas is saying, it's funny how people bring that up every time there's a strong female character, but no one says anything when the main character is male. I'm sorry, Thomas. What are you referencing specifically? Can you clarify that? But yeah, that's exactly it, right? Like, I don't know. Just there's of course like a lot of like gender politics involved in that we could get into, I guess. But just also from just a storytelling perspective, isn't that boring? It's just so boring. Like, you know exactly what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay. Thomas is mentioning the Mary Sue thing again, so I'll just get into it. So the thing with the male character thing is no one celebrates a strong main male character because we've been seeing it throughout history time and time again.
Right.
It's a hardcore trope that we see in everything. Like, think about the previous Star Wars series.
Right.
And, you know, like a lot of stuff like Lord of the Rings and just
right.
Everything has like a main male character. And so there's some people on the internet who are saying Rey is a Mary Sue. So a Mary Sue, for anyone who doesn't know, is a female character who's too perfect. They don't have any flaws. All the boys like her. She doesn't realize like how cute she is, and just basically like an unrealistically perfect type of girl. And I don't see any evidence that Rey is a Mary Sue because she isn't perfect, and I think people the people I saw calling her a Mary Sue weren't used to seeing a character like her in a main role, in a leading role.
Right.
Because if it were a male, no one would call that male out and say that he's a Gary Stu, like the male version of a Mary Sue.
Right. I mean,
because
sorry. Yeah.
It's so common. Like, there's a point where Han Solo shoots a guy without even looking.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And no one's getting up on Twitter and being like, ew, Han Solo is such a Gary Stu. Right. But like, Rey can save herself from creepy guy in black, and she's suddenly a Mary Sue.
Right. I mean, just like, I think the simplest way to point out how ridiculous that is, if we want to keep it like with her comparison in the universe, I mean, she's literally Luke. I mean, there are of course differences in her personality, but right down to her clothing, she's on a sand planet in like beige clothing, right? She's really good at like mechanics and whatever else. She can take care of herself. That is literally Luke Skywalker. You know, and it's as you said about Han Solo, but nobody's complaining. Nobody complained about Luke.
Yeah.
It's also before the internet, so maybe somebody did in their basement or something. I don't know, but yeah.
And some people are saying, well, she lives alone and there's no way she could have learned to do all the stuff that she can do. But we don't know her past yet, and we don't know how she learned those things. And I just think people are really jumping up to say that she's the Mary Sue just because she's a woman.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, and there's definitely breadcrumbs there throughout this story to say, okay, clearly there's something more going on with her where she wasn't just like suddenly given power, right? Like,
yeah, someone's there with her.
Right. Like either she, in my opinion, I feel like either she was a student of that academy before everything went to hell. Of course, the big popular theory is that she's Luke's daughter, which I think is a little too obvious. Seems like kind of a red herring maybe, but yeah, there's definitely stuff there to show that she's not just strong because the writers wanted her to be strong. That makes sense. Yeah, and Thomas, I don't disagree with that necessarily, but she's not a Mary Sue.
No.
So shut up, men's rights activists.
Get out of here, MGTOWs. So is there anything else that you liked that you want to talk about?
That I really liked? Yeah, well, everything. I don't know. I don't know. I was like,
you liked everything.
Okay, no, that's not true, as we've established. But I really actually liked. I don't know. Like you said, you felt like Han was less essential to the story than Leia was. But I think this movie showed him having like a really interesting sort of evolution, in that he devolved, right, because of what happened. So he went back to smuggling with Chewie, who again is a Banff, and you know, showed that he's not really that good at it. But it's the only thing he can do. So I don't know. I appreciated seeing him kind of back in that role, and sort of being like this aged shadow of who he was. And I think, and here's the big spoiler, people, close your ears. Mommy and Daddy are about to have a serious discussion. That was a weird thing to say. Anyway. But the fact that he was killed, I thought, gave his character purpose. Otherwise, I mean, he was also this film's analog for Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? He was the Obi-Wan Kenobi to Rey's Luke. But if that hadn't happened, I feel like he would have been just as superfluous as I felt Leia was. Like, he just would have been there to be the wisecracker shooting people. Like, he would have had no point. And side note, though, as from like a cinematography standpoint, that scene when he's killed, I thought was beautiful. Some really interesting things happening, like as the sun was dying out and the room was half red and half blue. And then the sun died, right? And then you knew, like, that's such a clear signal, right? Like, nobody doubts at that point when the sun dies what's going to happen. And and it plays into that struggle, which I actually really believed with Kylo Ren. I thought that was really well done. But yeah, just then everything goes red in that moment, right? And I just thought it was really well done. And anyway, the point I was trying to make before I went off on my rambly way is that I think he was actually the most essential character, at least to that part of the story, to that part of the plot.
I agree that the lighting in a lot of scenes was great, and I love that they use kind of opposing light sources.
Yeah.
In a lot of scenes, not just that one, like one side would be red and one would be green or blue.
Right.
But honestly, I just didn't feel anything more than confusion at that part, I guess because Kylo Ren hadn't been built up that much. I'm hoping in the next movie there'll be more explanation on what happened to him.
Yeah, agreed.
And his motivations and stuff, so...
I think, like, tonally, supposedly, Episode 8 is supposed to be much more in line with The Empire Strikes Back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they were trying to go the Darth Vader route a little bit. As, you know, in A New Hope, we don't really know anything about Vader. Mostly we know he's just a scary dude who, you know, killed Obi-Wan Kenobi, which, again, is another parallel. And so I think that was kind of purposely left vague, of course. But I don't know. So when you say that, did you not have that sort of, how should I say? Did you feel any sort of like the emotional struggle with his character when he did what he did?
Yeah, mostly because his acting was so good.
Yeah, it was great. So, question: when Han's going out on the bridge, like, what did you think Ben Solo / Kylo Ren's intention was? Like, did you think he lured Han out there with the intention of killing him, or did you feel more that he really was conflicted up until like that very end moment?
Well, I have a really disappointing answer.
Okay, well, give it.
And that is that part got spoiled for me. So.
Oh. That's a bummer.
I knew Han died, so as soon as he started walking out there, I was like, okay, for like a while into this movie, I'm pretty sure that's what's about to happen, and yeah.
Total bummer, man.
Yeah, I was pissed.
Yeah, that's the worst.
Yeah, I hate people.
Damn it. Yeah, every time I saw that scene, though, I was like, like for the next 5 minutes. Actually, I felt worse when Chewie got shot towards the beginning of the movie, I'm not going to lie.
Oh my god, you're in love with him.
Well, I always feel worse when like an animal character gets hurt or killed than when like a human gets killed. Because I'm just like, whatever, there's like 7 billion of us, you know, which is a terrible thing to say. It makes me sound a little psychotic, but
no, I agree.
Yeah. It felt really terrible, and yeah, I don't know. There's nothing more to say. I just felt terrible.
Am I insane, or for a while when I was a kid, I thought Chewie was a woman?
Really?
Yeah, sexy, hairy woman.
Dream woman, indeed.
That's my headcanon, I guess.
Headcanon.
Yeah.
E-canon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it goes. That's right. Oh, that's the worst. Thomas got it spoiled for him too.
Yeah, awful. People are jerks.
Yeah.
Not everyone goes to see it the opening week. God.
Psyduck. Such as the interwebs.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Let's talk about Chewie. I mean, I think he is... I don't know, he's such a good example of a character who doesn't really say anything you understand, but the characterization with him is really, really strong. Unless I'm just talking out my ass. But I love Chewie. Come on, like you know who Chewie is. Like you know what he's saying without him saying anything. Like you get Chewie. I get Chewie anyway.
You get her.
Yeah, I get her.
Deep way.
Yeah. And come on, that moment when Han gets it, and Chewie is like, "No, bitch," and like he's clearly in pain. Yeah.
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 So sad.
Come on. I don't know. I'd like to talk about like some of like the super tropey stuff,
Yeah.
I guess. Like the first thing that comes to mind is the really like perfectly timed breaking apart of the planet so that Rey and Kylo Ren can be separated. Right? That's a bit on the nose, but I would wonder. I am in love. I am in love with Chewie. He's my bro, or she's my sis. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah. Like, did you feel like there were a lot of moments like that where there were these really sort of contrived isn't quite the right word, but super tropey moments that maybe could have been written in a better way?
Um, yeah, I guess in a way that a lot of stuff was just directly lifted from the previous films, and that I really wanted some more originality.
Sure. Do
Um,
you think though? Did you think that was necessary?
just tell me what you're thinking. What?
No, I'm not. I'm not thinking. I'm wondering if you felt it was necessary to write the movie that way, because they kind of had to hit reset after the reception of the last couple films.
I think they must have had a hard time. Like, I heard that they had a whole other script written that got scrapped a couple years ago.
Yeah, no, that's true, isn't it?
And I think they really had to kind of balance fan service and bringing in the new characters. But there was a lot of fan service, in my opinion. I don't know. I really wanted an original movie, and I knew it wasn't going to be. And I don't know. I just like the whole like reveal, like when Han shows up and when Leia shows up. I'm just kind of like, okay. I don't know. Maybe just because I'm not a super fan, I wasn't like, oh my god.
Thomas wants to know if we think that Finn and Poe are going to make out in episode 8 or 9.
We can only hope.
Yeah, I mean that'd be cool, right?
Yeah, except it's super obvious that Finn and Rey love each other.
I don't know. I felt like it was unrequited. Like I felt like he.
Shut up.
No, I'm serious. Like I felt like he really like had a thing for her, but it felt more of like a platonic thing for her. But then again, I could have just been, been like, no, you leave Rey alone. But I will admit to the possibility. But yeah, he got friend zoned. Yeah, that's how I felt. He's just, Emily, men and women can be friends, okay? All right.
No, Chewie's a woman.
Right.
What's on?
That's right. Yeah, Nippon Culture Quest is talking about the magical box, right? And what's her name? Maz Yoda, Yellow Yoda's compound thing there, which again I think is another example where that's stuff that if they're going to do that, there needs to be more explanation, because they explain it in the novelization. Not the novelization, but yeah, that's there.
Yeah, I found her really distracting because she was a computer animated character.
Yeah, it was really kind of jarring because of everything else being so practical.
Yeah, I was really disappointed in that. And what was that guy's name? The giant guy in the chair? It's a hologram.
Oh, Snoke.
Snoke, yeah. It looked really bad. And for him, I was like, why didn't they just paint an actor's face to look all decrepit and gross? But
yeah,
just the animation. I don't know for anyone else, but if anyone's watching this and you want to go into animation, your life watching films will be ruined forever, because now whenever I watch anything, I'm looking at the animation going, oh, that looked great, or oh, that looked like garbage, which was the case in this movie.
Yeah, the like big evil Gollum guy, played by Gollum too. And that was the thing with him. I didn't feel his menace. Sounds sexual, not how I meant it.
I didn't at all. You're crazy. know where your mind's at.
Uh,
That was another big issue I had where I didn't feel any real threat from the bad guys in it, and they just weren't as scary as Darth Vader and the bad guys in the original series.
See, I disagree with you.
Okay.
Like Snoke, I think I don't care. And there's, of course, like you know exactly what's going to happen at the end of the movie, right? Because we've seen it before. But I mean, I don't know, like the Empire, so to speak, the First Order seems it was written in a way that I actually felt like they were like the big evil dudes and not just like got a couple lucky shots off, right? Like at the beginning when they're massacring the village, for example, I thought that went a long way. In Kylo, yeah, I like we've already talked about, I thought he was a pretty good, interesting villain. And I wasn't scared. Like, I mean, I didn't expect him to cut Han Solo in half. Not actually what happened, but you know what I mean. So yeah, but as for like the big, like the overarching menace, like I guess I agree with that part. But you crazy. First Order. First Order. Yeah.
I felt like they were just like the group of the mean nerds that got together. Like Kylo Ren seemed really nerdy to me.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help that he's Adam Driver, who might be like the physical stereotypes of like a nerd sort of distilled into one person. But I don't know. I thought actually that nerdy appearance played really, really well into when he took off the mask and you're like, oh, it's just some boring dude. You know, or like, oh, he's just a guy. And there was nothing like when Vader took off his mask and you're like, oh, that guy's effed up. Right? Which, you know, now he's all kind of beat to hell. Yeah.
I thought it was kind of stupid how they had the Vader helmet.
Yeah, I mean, he's
like melty looking. Yeah, I was like, come on.
Yeah. Well, it's supposedly those ashes. There's that scene when he like plops his helmet down in the ashes. Supposedly those are Darth Vader's ashes too. Which seems a little far for me. But
yeah.
Yeah, side story. There's that character in Yellow Yoda's hangout joint, whatever, and that character who reports like the droid being there to like the First Orders in like the expanded universe. She's the one who went and got the helmet and all that stuff. She got it for Kylo Ren. Nobody needed to know this, by the way, but I just wanted to share my deep and unabiding nerd knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, well, here to help.
So enriching.
Thanks. Their HR department needs work. Yeah. Well, that was the thing too, is that somebody's pointing out about how he's not mentally stable, right? How the Sith aren't good at recruiting mentally stable people. But there's been a lot of people has said that Kylo Ren is basically Anakin Skywalker, but people for some reason like him better.
He's a better actor.
Better actor, or I mean, what do you think about the way that they're written?
Well, I haven't watched the other movies in a long time, to be honest.
Okay.
I didn't go and watch all of them before I saw The Force Awakens.
Sure.
I don't know. It's hard to distinguish between the acting and the writing for me, because a good actor can carry bad or basic writing, and a bad actor can very good writing. That's
fair.
What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that this movie was better written than, say, for example, Revenge of the Sith. Just all around, like dialogue and everything. And also Hayden Christensen, who has had some really good performances, is also not a great actor. Not the case with Adam Driver, but I mean, they're both written to be like petulant children, right? Who just want to have their way and mommy never loved me and whatever.
Yeah.
Type of situation. But yeah, I think I agree that it's hard to distinguish between the page and what was put out there. But I mean, he is every bit as whiny and childish as Anakin was, right? But I think
Hmm.
for some reason we can be okay with it in this situation.
I don't know. Yeah, it's true. It's weird. Like Kylo Ren, um, maybe he just delivered it in a better way. He was maybe because we haven't seen him since he was a kid. You know, like we saw Anakin as a kid and as he grew up to be like this little shit.
Right.
And Kylo Ren, we haven't seen him from the beginning.
Right. God damn, Jake Lloyd.
I don't know. I think he brought this certain like darkness to his expressions and the way he like carried the role that Hayden Christensen just didn't have.
I agree with that. Which
They're
means
both emo, but for some reason it's more believable on Kylo Ren.
sure. And I think, I don't know, maybe because from everything like we're supposed to believe about like the Order and the dark side and everything else, like, right, like they're not supposed to be like somber, whiny people all the time. And I guess it's like maybe one of the key differences between the two characters is that Kylo Ren is explosive, right? He isn't in control of himself at all, and he just goes off the handle, literally like cutting everything up around him occasionally, right? So I thought maybe that maybe is one of the reasons that he's just not being an ass, like a crybaby the entire time. You know, like other times he's just like, whatever, I'm being a badass. If that, yeah, I read somewhere.
Why is that? Why he was doing that thing during the lightsaber fight?
Yeah,
like after he got hit, he would like punch himself.
Yeah, he's fueling. Yeah, he's fueling himself with the rage.
He's like, "Oh,
right?
I'm so powerful." Ouch!
Yeah. Oh man, it really hurts. Yeah. Not Emily. You're Emily. Mel here in the comments is talking about how Star Wars is a story about the Skywalkers. Yeah, I think that's true. Like at least that's what was always said when George Lucas still had the reins. Is that it's the story of the Skywalkers.
Mm-hmm. So do we think Rey is a Skywalker?
I think most likely.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like I said, it could just be like a huge red herring. But there's so much laid down that it feels like for her not to be a Skywalker somehow have relation there is I don't know, it would feel cheap, I guess.
But it's also kind of obvious in a way. Like some people are speculating that she's not.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. It does seem a little too obvious. But
some people think she's a Kenobi.
Or a Kenobi Skywalker, right? Yeah,
we don't know yet.
That's kind of a stretch. For Luke to have gotten jiggy with some granddaughter or like Kenobi's daughter that we never heard of until now. But who knows? I don't know. Like there's so much that was sort of thrown out when Disney bought Star Wars, right? There was like so much expanded universe content. But it's interesting to see how this movie, there's so many little storylines that are pulled directly from the expanded universe, which makes it feel a little cheap, to be honest. Did you, I mean, I know you're not like a super fan or anything, but did you ever read any of the expanded universe stuff?
No.
Yeah, well, like for example, in those books, there are these twins. One of them becomes like the new Darth Vader, and then the other one has to train to become a Jedi to defeat him. So that's kind of like what people are thinking is happening with Rey and Ben. But that's not written, right? Like surely Han would have been like, "Oh, hey, daughter." I don't know. But that's yeah, sorry, continue.
Sorry. No, I was just gonna say that's what I was thinking too during the movie, that why would she be around like Han the entire movie and then not find out that that's her dad? That doesn't make sense.
Right, yeah. I think though Han and Leia quite clearly know who she is, I think. Right? Like for example, there's the scene in Yellow Yoda's bar where Yellow Yoda asks Han like, so who's the girl? And then they cut immediately away, right? You don't get to see his reaction. You don't get to see him start to say anything. So that seemed like a pretty that's a pretty dead giveaway that he knows. And then when Rey returns from Starkiller Base, Leia's just like, "Sup, let's hug. We've never met each other before." Right? And there seemed to be some kind of recognition there. So I'd be interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I don't know.
Maybe Leia cheated. I'd be interested to know from the commenters, like Sean, for example, saying that Rey being a Skywalker is pretty far-fetched. But I'm interested to hear some of like the alternative theories that are supported in what we saw.
Yeah, well, Jay Philosopher is saying Jedi aren't supposed to get into a relationship, but Luke was probably like, "There's no Jedi left. What the hell?" So yeah,
Right.
maybe they changed the rule or something.
Right. I've seen some interview, maybe it was with J.J. Abrams, where Luke's character is different from the other Jedi who have come before because he takes a more like holistic approach to the Force. So, like, it's okay to like use what are typically considered like darker abilities or whatever, or to to embrace your passions and things like that. But as long as you look at it on the whole, everything still has to be for the greater good and everything like that. And you can't go and like chop up villages of children or something. Right? But he embraces that part of himself as a character, as like a human. And I guess, I don't know, again, this is something that was pulled from the expanded universe, but Luke was just like, it's just all of the Force, man. It's what you do with it that matters, type of thing. I'll be interested to see if the same kind of thing happens. Yeah.
Did I hear that they're making another animated series?
Is that true?
I don't know. Maybe I just dreamed that.
Did you watch, or do you watch Rebels or the Clone Wars?
I haven't watched them, but I've been told all about them.
Sure. I haven't seen much of Rebels, but Clone Wars was actually really, really good. But it's all animated, so you'll spend the whole time analyzing everything, Emily. It won't be a restful experience for you.
No.
It's kind of relations for the greater good. No, I don't mean that. I mean,
no,
like,
to make Jedi babies, obviously.
Yeah. To make Jedi babies, indeed. But yeah, no. What did you think about the title? Do you think the title is a good title for the movie? I guess, considering the story.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of about Rey discovering her abilities with the Force, right?
Sure. Yeah.
It's kind of implied that she didn't know how to use it before the events in the movie.
Right. I think, again, this is one of the things that wasn't explained very well in the movie, but supposedly, like, there hasn't really been much of a Force, like, at all, since Luke went into hiding, or since the event. Yeah. Supposedly, like, the Force goes dormant, so that's why it's called The Force Awakens, when Rey does discover that, like, and maybe Finn, that's something to talk about too, is maybe Finn is also Force sensitive. Did you feel like there was any like evidence for that maybe he is Jedi-ish too?
Yeah, I felt like he had some connection there. But yeah, all their characters are a little mysterious at this point.
For sure. I think I would really like to know more about Poe.
Yeah, he's supposed to get his own movie, isn't he?
I don't think he's getting his own movie, but he's getting his own comic book, I know.
Oh, one of my coworkers told me he's getting a film.
Oh, that'd be kind of cool. I'd watch that.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't verify that statement, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, who knows? There's so many of the anthology movies coming out over the next forever. Right. Next year we're getting the Death Star plan story, Rogue One.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting, and that's actually one of like the big holes in the movie for me, is that they crash land on the planet, right? And then later on it's explained that it was like, oh man, I was knocked out, and then I woke up later and I just left the planet type thing. It was originally written that he was supposed to die. Like at that point he was actually dead when like the TIE fighter got sucked into the sand. which is why I don't know though, but like in the story, it's definitely a little weird that he was like, okay, well, I'm trying to protect this droid. It has super important information, but I'm just gonna leave it with this stormtrooper that I just met and take off from the planet and be like, okay, well, maybe I'll see the droid later. After he went through all this stuff to like get a hold of that information.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess there was like a part that I really disliked in the story.
Yeah, I didn't like that either.
Let's go to the comments. Yeah, right, exactly. Sean, why isn't Finn as a force sensitive possible?
Mm-hmm.
Sean is determined. Sean is being a bit of a contrarian today.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But yeah, why does Jakku look exactly like Tatooine? Familiar setting. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that what's different is the characters. And I think this is something I was alluding to earlier, but I think that's why it was necessary for them to put this in such a familiar plot, because then they could take risks with their characters and just let the story, everybody know what's going to happen in the story. But then they could do more interesting things with the characters and get away with it because it still felt familiar.
Sean saying the Empire tests children at birth. Well, would they keep testing them after, they thought the Force had died out?
That's a good question. I don't know. I kind of think like it's possible, but I don't think he will become a Jedi. Because like everything that we saw him do on screen, I feel like is just a result of him being like the soldier character, right? Like of course he's been like a trooper for his entire life, so of course he can swing around a lightsaber a little bit. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now what did you think about how he was written? There's been like a lot of criticism of the fact where that first event happens and he sees like his fellow trooper get gunned down and he gets like, really shaken up about it, and then he just starts like blowing them away when he sort of escapes. Did you think that was problematic?
I didn't even notice that at the time, but it seemed like he had some growth throughout the movie. I don't know.
Yeah. I think though. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I didn't like some of his dialogue. It's really nitpicky, but some of his dialogue and maybe a couple lines of Rey's just seemed a little like slapsticky and kind of in the style of like Joss Whedon or Joss Whedon, however you want to say it.
Yeah.
Which I hate his writing, so I was kind of like cringing at the jokes, but sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's definitely a bit Whedon-esque. So you weren't a fan of Buffy or any of those shows?
No, sorry.
I still like it. You're okay.
As if.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna get hate mail after this.
Right. I mean, I felt, I guess, completely the opposite way. I really liked all of that kind of humor that was written in there. And I mean, it was definitely slapsticky, but I thought that they were trying to walk that line between being really dark or really dry, like the prequels, and sort of put some of the humor from the old trilogy back into it. So I feel like if we were in the theater together, like I would have like cracked up and you would have just given me a look like,
yeah, I would have been elbowing you. Shut up.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, how did you feel about the dialogue otherwise though?
Nothing else really stood out to me. It wasn't too horrible. Again, I think it was really carried by the actors. Yeah. Just slapstick isn't that much of my style, but that's okay.
That's fair enough. The humor kind of brought back. Yeah. This is an interesting point, right? What about why the Empire are the bad guys?
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think that's something that probably could have been answered better. The Resistance, the Rebels, the Republic, whatever. And maybe it would have been clear. But I don't know. The First Order are still space Nazis, so that seems the distinction seems pretty clear there. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we are nearing an hour. Yeah, they do blow up planets. That seems like a pretty obvious thing. The Force is dormant. I don't know, Sean. I don't know if I want to get into like the full nerd explanation for that, but I don't know if Emily wants to hear it. I've sort of been talking over you. But yeah, basically, I don't know that I want to tell you. Sean, I'll tell you later. It does not fit within the scope, which is a rule I've just made now, apparently. But yeah, guys, we're coming up on an hour. So if there are any points you would like to make, things that we haven't talked about that you feel like we should talk about, please let us know in the comments now. Questions?
I was mad that I was upset that Gwendolyn Christie didn't take off her helmet and do a reveal.
Yeah, that was weird because she was so hyped up.
Yeah, I was excited for her role. And
yeah.
Next time, I guess.
Yeah, right? I want to see the adventures of, like, her. Just Captain Phasma.
Yeah.
Because she's supposed to be, like, such a badass, and then, like, her role is basically getting tackled by Chewbacca, who, again, is a badass, and being forced to shut the ship down. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The worst. What do you think about the ending scene? Yeah.
I already forgot what it was.
It's Rey with her hand outstretched with a lightsaber. She's like, "Here, bro, I brought you this."
Oh.
And then the camera pans for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fine. I don't know. I didn't have a strong opinion on it.
Mm.
I was like, all right, what's gonna happen in the next movie?
I wanted more Luke, but I guess they did it that way for a reason. He's not the main character anymore. Sorry, bitches.
He's old, Grandpa.
He is old, yeah. Sorry, I just added something really useful to the conversation.
Okay.
Wait, why? Yeah. Yeah, the next movie coming out 1 month. That's just Japan for you, I guess. But I like to answer the question, though. I guess I liked the ending. I thought that there was a lot of things playing out on Mark Hamill's face when he saw Rey, like, oh. And I didn't know if it was like, oh, somebody brought me the lightsaber, or, oh, I recognize you. Like, how did you get here? Or if he was expecting her. Or I don't know. Yeah. All right, then. Emily, anything else? Anything else from you?
No, less CG next time.
Less CG. Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. All right, then, everybody. Well, thank you for joining and listening to me ramble while Emily tries to get a word in. I'm sorry, Emily.
I don't feel like that happened. But
all right. Well, good.
Thank you for letting me go on a sexist tirade. I could go on, but
do go on.
Okay. Everyone was getting mad at, I can't remember any actor's name, so Leia, the actress's name.
Yeah. What's her face?
Carrie Fisher. People were tweeting about her, saying that she aged poorly and she got fat and she looked bad and all this stuff. And that was so offensive. I didn't see anyone tweeting about how leather-faced Han Solo is and like how he looks like complete shit. And yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say.
Yeah, that's savage as usual, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But for her though, like she had just the best response, which is basically just
Which
like
was
enjoy it while you're young, assholes, right? Which is perfect. So
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, on that note, guys, thank you for joining us here on the Burrow. Sorry, it's been a while since we put up a video, so hopefully this is the start of more regular content from us again.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, if you were not in the live stream, please let us know down in the comments below what you thought about the movie, what some of the strengths of it were, what its weaknesses were. Love to hear from you. And that's all for us. See you
Yeah.
guys
Thanks,
next time.
guys.